Hello class. Today we're going to be working with citations and how citations can help to improve your academic writing. A citation is a way to show where information came from within your academic writing and to give credit to other authors whose work you've read. There are a number of times when you should cite information. Anything you read from a source, whether it be a web source, another research paper, a newspaper, any of that material must be cited within a research paper. Also, anything you wouldn't commonly know, including specific birthdays, should all be cited. Finally, an author's specific thoughts or ideas, anything you directly quote from another person's work, must be cited within your paper. Remember also that academic writing creates interactions between you and your sources. It shouldn't simply be a list of other people's material. You have to add your own commentary to make sense of those ideas. Also remember that a body paragraph in an academic essay should never be a collection of quotes with one citation at the end. Any material that you cite must have its own citation. So let's take a look at what that looks like in a paper. There are two ways to use a citation within your paper. The first is what we call in-text, and the second is parenthetical. In an in-text citation, you introduce the article, author, and other information that's important through the language in your paper. We'll take a look at what that looks like specifically in just a second. The other way, parenthetical, uses a set of parentheses to insert the information directly after a quote. Here are two examples. In our in-text citation, we see that within the text of the sentence, the author's name is used, as well as the article name. This tells us specifically where the information came from, and a reader can then look onto your works cited page, which we'll be dealing with in a moment, to see where that information came from. In our parenthetical citation, we see that the author of the article, Doug Matakanis, has his name listed at the end of a direct quote. Again, in this way, we can go back to the works cited page and see where the information came from. It's generally preferable to start a paragraph or a new source with an in-text citation to include the extra information, and then follow it up afterwards with parenthetical citations for later uses. The article that I've used here is a web source, so there are no pages, but remember that if it was a print source, like a book or a newspaper, you would have to include a page number within that works cited section. Here's a sample within a text, just so you can see how it would be written out. Take a second to read through the sample now. Notice how we have a direct quote, and following that we have the author's name in parentheses. Watch for things like punctuation because they're very important. The citation ends the sentence, so the period has to be the last thing within that sentence. After that, we continue on and we give a bit of commentary. When you're finished with your paper, you're going to want to have a works cited page. It's a list of all the sources that you've used when writing your paper. Remember that it's in alphabetical order by traditionally the author's name, last name first, first name last. Works cited pages use what we call a hanging indent, and that's what this paragraph actually uses. Notice how the first item in the paragraph hangs out over the rest of the text. This makes it easier for a reader to find that information in a hurry. Also remember that works cited pages have the words works cited directly at the top of the page. There are a variety of ways to format works cited pages, but traditionally English classes use what we call MLA format, named after the Modern Language Association. Information about this can be found at Purdue's OWL site or by using the web search engine Citation Machine. Either of those are absolutely fine, but we're going to take a look at what this looks like on your own in an example coming up. So here I've got my sample works cited page, and I've got a variety of information in here, and it's all punctuated in a specific way. So the first thing we have is the author's name, Caleb Nico. Notice that as we spoke about earlier, the last name goes first and the first name goes last. Next we have the name of the article that we've read, Fahrenheit 451, more relevant now than ever, and it's in quotation marks as it is an article within a larger work. In this case it was a web article. Next up we have the name Bookstove. This is the publication information. Notice how it's ended by a period, followed by bookstove.com, which is our publishing website. Oftentimes these pieces of information will be the same. Next we have to have the date that the article was published on, followed by the word web, and then finally we have the date that we read the article on. This is important because oftentimes web information will change from day to day or from month to month, so it's important for your reader to know when you access that information so that they can keep up to date with your research. Now, if we were going to cite from this in a body paragraph, we would just use the name Nico because that's the author's last name, and since it's a web source, we wouldn't have a page number. Remember that if you have any questions about citations, you can always look up that information, again, on citationmachine.net or on Purdue's OWL site. They both have a lot of really good information, but this should get you started.